when New Zealand lost its mojo. A word that has found a bit of lexicon around political circles in Wellington in particular, as we're trying to recover it. And that suggests that if we're trying to recover our mojo, when did we lose it? Liam Dam from the New Zealand Herald's got some views. A lot of you have got some views this morning, and thank you for sharing a text with me. I'll share those with the broader audience a little later on as well. But our next columnist also, our next commentator and guest in actual fact has been somebody who's been arguing that for a long time and has got a pretty clear view as to who might be responsible. Janet Wilson is a former journalist. I seem to remember her from television days, where she was a fairly, normal, prosaic stand-up. Just here it is. Here's the news, not the weather. Here's what's happened, rather than I'm going to give you my erudite commentary and opinion. And she had a reputation as being a pretty stand-up journalist. She ended up as a press secretary, I'm pretty sure, for the National Party, and then has gone back. I guess she's retired now. I'll find out in just a second. And is a regular contributor to the Post, writing pretty erudite opinion pieces. And in her most recent, which is why we're talking to her at the moment, arguing that the National Party's real problem, and the reason it doesn't have its mojo back, is a lot to do with its leadership. Joining us to talk about that now is Janet Wilson. Welcome to the show, Janet. Lovely to have you on.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, Janet, just tell us a bit about yourself first. I was trying to work out, when did you end up in Parliament? When did you go to the dark side? Leave the good, decent people of journalism and plunge yourself into that abyss?
Well, can we go back? You and I have history too, because you replaced me when I was having a near nervous breakdown on Radio Live back in 2003, and you took over from me doing the 9 to 1 show at some stage.
9 to 12.
I mean, I've rattled.
Then the Maori boys, the Brown brothers came in after me. Tamahiri
and the Brown
boys
came
Jackson.
in after you. That's right.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2003, right? So I was still rattling around, plying my old trade. And I jumped out of all of that in 2007, completely exhausted, and then ventured into my own little company, which was basically a media communications company and training company. And I worked with John Key from 2008 through to 2017. Usually in and around election time. But in that first year particularly, I worked with him extensively in 2008 in the lead up to those elections. So I've been associated with the Nats for a long time now. And then in 2020, I took that, and this is well documented, I took that suicide mission to be the chief press sec when Todd Muller had been appointed leader, and there was turmoil within the party, it would be fair to say. And no one else would take the gig. So the poison chalice was handed to me on a 4-month basis, which I then took. Because I figured if you're there for the good times, you've got to be there for the bad times, right? That was my view.
Well, that's sort of like, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Did you get psychological
Why
assistance after that? Because you must have had post-traumatic stress disorder after finishing that job, did you?
I did. I broke my leg, actually. There was so much cortisol running through my system that I was out on a walk, didn't see a pothole, and broke my tibia. So that just shows you the effect it had. Yeah. So that was 2020.
So you were only the press secretary just for Todd Muller. Who came in after Todd Muller?
Todd Muller and Judith.
Judith, yeah, that's right. So you were her press secretary as well?
Yes. So just through that, from the June through to the October of that year in 2020.
That was the election time, was it?
That was all through the election campaign. Yeah.
And that was a disaster too. But mostly
Complete
because,
disaster.
as you say, National were working in some sort of internecine civil war. Listen, it's remarkable that you're talking about, because that's not very long ago. That's only 5 years ago that you're talking about this experience, and National being literally at war with each other. What's happened in that 5 years? I mean, they're not at war with each other now. I mean, for all their inadequacies, and we'll talk about that in just a second, they do seem relatively unified in terms of purpose and intent.
Yes, I think they are. And I think they've got a really fine front bench too. The other thing I need to say, which I have yet to write about in defence of, because I think they've got talent on that front bench that are producing results, which is part of the frustration, I think, that there are things happening, but it's just been lost in the fog of a lack of leadership, frankly.
Yes, and that's what I
And,
wanted
you
to
know,
talk to you about, because your most recent article in the Post was trenchant as to the leadership capabilities and capacity
yeah,
of
yeah,
Christopher Luxon, and you're saying that the real reason that the centre right isn't sort of riding to the rescue on so many issues is because of that leadership. What in particular are the qualities that he lacks, do you think, to do the job?
I, when he came in, Luxon said he was going to do things differently. And I think the way he was going to do things differently was that he was going to cede some of his leadership to those other players, that it was going to be mutually beneficial for all around. Well, I'm afraid that's just not how that dear old warhorse Winston Peters plays the game. And that is not how people like David Seymour play the game. And they have neatly just shredded him and walked all over him. And I think the worst thing that, as New Zealanders, the thing that we hate the most is weakness in our leaders.
Okay, so you're saying that Peters and Seymour are bossing Luxon.
Oh, they've ridden all over him. Winston's been quoted as saying, "I put him there," as if he's some titular head of and he's the real leader, is the implication. Seymour has defied him openly with his comms and come out against him, whereas Luxon hasn't done that at all, and he just appears weak. And I think it's a real problem. And the other thing is, within the party itself, I don't think he is their strongest player. I think there are other players who are as strong, who are not being able to shine and show the stuff that they are doing, because he's at the top of the pile.
I'll come to the problematic relationship that he might have or not with his coalition partners, but I just want to explore the other thing though. Surely, though, the problem with Mr. Luxon, although you've raised those issues, is that he fails to connect with New Zealand. That there is an inability to articulate or present a telegenic personality who can convince or persuade me that he's the best person there. Isn't? I mean, what?
Yes.
That's a personal failing, isn't it?
That is a personal failing, and the Freshwater poll gave some insight into that. You know, pollsters were asked, voters were asked, who can they relate to best? And 39% said Chris Hipkins, 27% said Luxon, 34% were unsure. I'd prefer to share a long car journey with. Chris Luxon was 28%, Hipkins was 41%, and 31% were unsure. It's those kinds of numbers which actually put some meaning behind what I think people have made their minds up about Luxon and his failure to communicate and his lack of leadership qualities.
So they're two slightly different things. He came from, as you know, he was jettisoned or parachuted into that job. Actually, that's probably a fair analogy in actual fact, by the National Party, who you've just gone through an internecine civil war, and you've garroted yourselves continually. They fly him in to solve the problem. There must be some qualities in which he's been able to bring that team together.